Hello everyone and welcome to Kingston Studios. I've had lots of people ask for tutorials on how I paint my models, and one of the most frequently asked things is, how do you get the white markings on your models to get so smooth? Well, I'm going to show you how I do my white markings today, and we're going to be using this little jumper stablemate, who is a commission, as an example. So let's get started with the stuff that you will need. First, obviously, you will need your model. This one has already been painted and shaded, so he's ready for his acrylics. You're also going to need your acrylic paints, white of course, because you're doing the white markings. I use Anita's all-purpose acrylic. It's really cheap and it's very nice. You can find it at most local craft stores and stuff. One thing that I like to use is a tray like this. You can get them at a hobby store for really cheap, maybe $1 or $2. And it's a good thing to have, especially if you want to mix colors. You will need 2 paint brushes, a rather medium-sized brush, looks something like this, and a very tiny brush that looks like this, because we are working with a stablemate, which therefore needs a really, really small brush. One of the most important things that you're going to need for doing white markings, which most people tend to forget, is water. I have some sort of cloudy water in here. I need a new cup. But yes, you will need water. You cannot just smack the paint on there, otherwise it's going to be rather chunky and it just won't work out like you need to. So there's the #1 secret for you. So we have our tray here, and of course we have our acrylic. And you can use one of the little sections to put some acrylics in. Since we're working with a stablemate, we really don't need that much paint. Also, now it's time to add the water. You don't need to pour it in there because otherwise it'd be too much. You could take just like a little brush, dip it in like water, and just sort of drop it in there. That's what I do. Maybe about 4 drops, and then you mix it so it kind of looks like milk. I'll move my hand out of the way in a minute so you can see. See? And don't worry about the bubbles in the paint, if there are some. Those will not show up when you paint your model, I promise. And so now that's mixed, you can see it more easily drippy. It's much thinner now. And so you can start applying to your model. Now here is my reference picture. So I'm going to be using this to go by. So let's get started with painting. I normally start out with the bigger brush so I can cover more area, especially since the markings are a little bit large. So I'm gonna follow the picture here, apply the first coat. You really want to try to spread it out as much as you can. You don't want it all clumping up in one area. So just paint and try to make sure that the paint doesn't splash anywhere, because when it is watered down a little bit, it tends to sort of flick little bits everywhere, so you really want to be careful with that. Now to get the detail, I'm going to start using my little brush here. So I'm gonna have to follow the reference picture. Sorry, I just paused. I just try to concentrate on this. Alright, so there we go. You're going to need multiple layers, of course, by the way, so don't think that you're just done with that one layer. Okay, so there is leg 1, and partway done. Now while you're waiting for that one leg to dry, as you can see here, you can do all the other ones. Once you finish with the hooves, you can also start to go and do the other markings, such as the face markings. Of course, use the same watered down paint. So I'm going to go by, too much, the reference photo, and just sort of make the outline of it first. Okay, see? And then you can go back and fill it in after you're done with that. After you finish your first coat of white paint, make sure to let it dry until all the paint is completely dry. Otherwise, you'll run into some trouble. But as you can see here, it's kind of splotchy there, and that's why you add more layers. So let's set them down and wait for the next coat. The first layer of white paint has completely dried, so now it's time to add another layer. Be sure to keep within the lines that you had already made so you don't have to worry about trying to get paint off of places that you don't need it, because sometimes that doesn't always work. So there we go. And as you can see, there is less splotchy marks now. And also be sure, places that seem like they're even, still add another coat anyways, because when it dries again, it might not look so even. And there you have it, second layer is finished. You're probably going to need about 4 layers of white paint, but of course if you're working with a bigger model, you might need more coats. But we'll probably add maybe a couple more coats, and then you're set with your white markings. Alright, and there you have it, 4 layers of watered down white paint, and you are good to go. And usually the best thing to do before you start adding coloration to the hooves and the nose, or if your white markings happen to go anywhere near the eyes, so before you do the eyes, be sure to spray matte finish on it, so that way it doesn't just mess up. Just promise me you'll want to use that. The type of matte spray that you want to use is this, it's like Treehouse Studio clear acrylic matte coating. Works very well for me, and I've been using it for a couple of years now, and I just really haven't had any problems. So thanks for watching, and I hope I was able to help you with your customizing endeavors.